Welcoming you to a life of awareness, the Presence Project is excited for you to join us for today's podcast with your host, Paul Kerzner.
Hello and welcome to episode 30 of Are You Being Present? My name is Paul Kerzner. I want to welcome you to the present moment. I want to welcome you to the here and now, and I want to thank you wholeheartedly, sincerely, and deeply for joining me in this present moment. The title and topic for today's podcast is Presence Through Plant Medicine, and I'm joined by Clay Villanueva. Clay is a facilitator of ayahuasca ceremonies and a pretty amazing guy. I invited him onto the podcast because I wanted to delve a little bit deeper into plant medicine and how it has an amazing effect on presence. I've had the amazing experience, and I know I've said amazing a few times, but it's true, of sitting in a few different ayahuasca circles. And recently, on the news, on the internet, just between people, ayahuasca is becoming more prevalent. People are curious about it, what it is, where it's coming from, what it feels like. There's a lot of documentaries about it and a lot of great information. Really, the only way to understand it is to experience it. But I wanted to properly introduce something like this medicine to my audience so that they have a general understanding of what it is, of why they would be interested in it, and just so that they can think about if it's right for them. Just for the record, ayahuasca is a very powerful medicine, and I have a lot of healthy respect for it. It's certainly not something that I run around telling everyone to do. It's something to consider for sure, but it's not something that everyone would be necessarily ready for. And I wanted to bring Clay onto the podcast because, personally speaking, I have a lot of respect for him and his work. But it's great to have an authority figure, someone that can kind of give us a very good understanding of what this medicine entails. So Clay, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you.
I want to give you this opportunity to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about where you've come from, what's going on, and what you're up to.
Big question. My name's Clay Villanueva, and I've been working with this medicine for about 6 years now. And it all started totally not where it has ended up, like a lot of stuff in life. Started about 6 years ago, and actually it's really kind of funny. This friend of mine gave me a little baggie of this ground powder, and I've had it for 15 years, and he said a friend of Timothy Leary's gave it to him and said it was very special stuff, but it didn't say anything about really what to do with it. I didn't, coming from that era, who knows, So anyway, I held on to it for 15 years, and then about almost 6 years ago I turned 50, and I was rooting through my stuff, and I saw it, and I was all like, man, I got to either figure out what this is or throw it away because I don't know, and I realized, oh yeah, we have Google now. So here I am rolling over to Google in my chair, and I type in ayahuasca thinking it's going to be some obscure little thing that, I don't know, there might be a hit or a page. And bam, man, there's like 10,000 pages and, stories and all kinds of retreat centers in Peru and Brazil and all of it. I was like, holy cow. And so I spent probably 2 days, all my free time, just reading about it and people's experiences. And within 2 days of discovering what it was, I had pretty much talked to my wife and arranged and had a round trip ticket down into the Amazon where I didn't know anybody. And it's supposed to be one of the world's most powerful hallucinogenic drug medicines that they've been working with for thousands of years in the jungle. So I said, all right. And I had a flight, and I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know who I was going to be with, and I didn't know if I'd get eaten by an anaconda or what the hell was going on, down in the rainforest. And but I figured, hey, I'm 50, and life has to be about a little bit more than, the mortgage and taxes and the brake jobs on your car and, kids and family and all that stuff that makes us a little bit crazy from time to time. I was really looking for like our purpose as human beings and why we're here, like the whole presence thing your podcast is about. I found myself, thinking and worrying and, caught up in all these other things in the world. And I knew that there was something more precious and more divine to our existence. So when I read and saw everything on the internet, I was like, okay, that's for me. So I ended up going down to Iquitos, Peru, and found myself in this town looking around going, wow, what have I gotten myself into? That was pretty wild. And then from there, it went deeper. They came and picked me up in a little like motorcycle thing. And then we drove for about 45 minutes way deep in the jungle. I mean, this was like no electricity, no running water. It was pretty wild. And then, so we're there our first night, and we're all sitting around, and the shaman, this guy's been doing it like 40 years. He doesn't ask anybody anything, how much they want. He just kind of looks at you and it's like, okay, and calls your name, and you go up and you drink this cup of this brown stuff, and I'd read how horrible tasting it was, and I went and I drank. It was probably, I don't know, maybe 3-4 ounces. It was a sizable quantity, and it really didn't taste that bad. It tasted kind of like suede. I hadn't actually had a suede beverage before, but I thought that was interesting. And I went and sat down and said, okay, well, come what may. I didn't know what was going to happen. And about 45 minutes later, man, it's like the universe just opened up, and this beautiful divine spirit, this mother, was like holding me and hugging me, and I just knew I was home. It was wild. It was like I knew that that's where I came from before I became a human being. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but it's like that space. It's the space of the creator, and you can see how the material world is just like a small part of that. And being in that space was just, to like go back to where we have come from, but to do it in this lifetime is a magnificent gift, because it really gives us some perspective on like why we're here and what we're doing here. So that, like from that moment on, man, I just knew that ayahuasca was the thing for me. It spoke to me. And then the next ceremony, it started teaching me these things and how to like work with the medicine and how to work with other people. And, I'm like, hey, I just kind of showed up to check this out. She was like, no, you're here for the long haul. So, there was all kind of like teaching me how to play musical instruments I'd never played before. It was just this energy and this light and life was like flowing through me. And like, it was showing me about plants and how they are conscious and about our lives and why we're here, why we come here and how we can dance in this lifetime, and about just like every little thing that had been worrying me for years and years and years. And it was just, it was like fine. It was okay. It was understandable. It was just very tranquil and peaceful and loving. It was like being held in your mother's arms or your grandmother or something as a child when you had questions like, why is this happening? Or, I have an owie, it was like at 50 years old, man, you can accumulate some owies, let me tell you, emotionally and physically. But it was just the most beautiful experience I'd ever had in my life. And I've been around the world. I've done lots of wild, crazy things. And to be able to have all that pale in comparison to like the first moment of being in the ayahuasca experience was it was life-changing. It was a big transformation for me. And I was at this center for 10 days, maybe 12, I forget. And we had 4 ceremonies, and they were all one night apart. That's a pretty standard thing in Peru. And it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more beautiful, and just it was like a garden of flowers were blooming. And every time I had a question about an aspect of my life or about human existence, the medicine would go, oh, well, that's this flower. And then I would look at it and it would bloom into this beautiful, beautiful creation. And you could just like smell it and see it, and you would understand like why. And, all these questions that we have as human beings, because when we arrive here, it's like there's no instruction manual. There's no book, we show up, and I don't know, maybe I'm the only one, but I just had questions all my life, It's like there's so many different religions, and there's so many different ways to eat food, and there's so many different ways to take care of your body, and so many different languages, and there's like all these really drastically different ways to be a human being. And I know I've spent a lot of my time just sort of asking, like, what do they have in common? And, why are we really here? Because if there was any one thing, then everybody would be doing the same thing, but they're obviously not. And that kind of gets back to why we're here, because it's the whole thing about presence, and about presence to our lives and to the beauty of existence in this universe. And that's what this plant medicine has really brought forth and allowed me to share with other people, is this underlying commonality that we all have as human beings, and why we're here, and that we are all like 99.9% almost identical, no matter how different we look and the languages that we speak. So the medicine has been just a fantastic tool to show us, again, our purpose, and that makes, for me anyway, a lot of the smaller issues in life really just shrink down, stuff that was making me crazy before. And then you have this experience where you're like sitting on, you're sitting on God's shoulder, or the creator, and you're watching the universes, just, stars and flowers, and you just see this whole world is woven together with like conscious light. And when you can see the fabric of reality, and you can just see just that love really is the source, love and light, all that corny stuff from the 60s, everybody laughs at, but that was coming from a real solid foundation. But when you can really see that is what's going on, it's not just some philosophical thing that you read in a book, that really makes all the little stuff that challenges our minds teeny, weeny, teeny tiny, stuff that just totally, makes you crazy after an ayahuasca experience, either way, they're different every time. Yeah, but when you have expanded out, and like I said, you can sit on the creator's shoulder, and you can just watch universes be created, man, it's like the human mind, it just becomes so infinitesimal, just so small, that the problems that really feel overwhelming suddenly become no problem at all. So, it's not like it fixes things, but it really gives us some perspective.
Yes. And that's no two ayahuasca ceremonies, no two ayahuasca experiences are the same. And so what you're talking about is beautiful, but ayahuasca is a great teacher, and it will bring forward different issues, conflicts, fears, and give you an opportunity to face them. And it'll do that all in the present moment. And that's the beauty of it. So, in that moment, you have no choice but to be there with it, to face it, to love it, to hate it, whatever you want to do. But it's going to be there with you. That's powerful. It's a powerful experience. And there's very few opportunities in life that you can actually get through a lot of conflict, a lot of fear, a lot of past worry, all those things within a few hours. And that's why it's such a powerful medicine.
Yeah, because you're going to be the medicine gives you what you need,
yes,
not what you want. So when you come to the medicine and you're about presence, like I want to be present in my life, okay? Many of us, I'm hugely guilty, live in the past or live in the future. It's like, really we're always present, but we focus on the past or the future, which takes us out of the now. That just like the medicine, if that's what we're doing, then the medicine is going to very clearly show you, and it's going to put it in your face. So, as you come to the medicine, you need to be ready for whatever comes up. And, if you're fairly peaceful in your life and you're fairly comfortable in your body, generally there's not a lot of dramatic things that go on.
True.
But I know, again, I'll use myself as an example, it's easy in this life to kind of avoid certain things, all of us as human beings, like you can't be a human being and not have had some kind of traumatic event ever. Being born is a very traumatic event. Coming out in the world and getting smacked and lights and air and you're used to being in the womb. Like that life starts out with traumatic events. And then from there, we all have emotional issues. We all have physical issues. I mean, everybody has that. And then how we carry those, that really shapes our lives. I mean, for some of us that have whatever reactions in as children, maybe somebody called us stupid one time. Some of us then make our whole lives about being smart, degrees and being doctors and all this stuff because somebody called you stupid. But the truth is, maybe that is not really how you're celebrating your life. Maybe that's not really where you are the most present and joyful. You're just doing it because you want to prove something. Well, the medicine may bring it up, that what you're doing is awesome and you may be making money at it and doing well, but like if what you're really, really, really wanting to do is something else, the medicine may bring that up. The medicine may bring up, that you are suppressing something, and it may show you, who knows, different images or feelings in your body, and that's part of what the purge process is. Because there is some purging going on. I mean, we're not going to beat around the bush here. And sometimes it doesn't happen, but sometimes there is some purging. Can come out at either end, but it's a whole different kind of a purge. It's not like when you have the flu, and it's not like when you're drinking a bunch of alcohol. I mean, it's actually more like sneezing than it is.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned that. I'll tell you that one of my least favorite facets of the medicine is that, and it's something that I'm working on is being a little bit more okay with just letting it go, being in the moment. But I mean, we all have our little control issues and what we feel okay with and what we don't. Mm-hmm. And so part of my work, is to sit with it and just let go. But you raise a good point about, all the things that we repress. So if you come to the medicine and you really haven't done a lot of inner plane work, you haven't worked on yourself, you haven't really delved deep into like who you really are and what you want, it could be a little startling because it's all going to come forward. It's all going to be there for you. It's just that you might have turned a blind eye to it. You might have chosen things that made you feel better, but you didn't ever go deeper. Mm-hmm. And this medicine, ayahuasca, will allow you and maybe force you to look at things that might not be comfortable, might not make you happy, but are for your greatest good. And I've sat in a variety of different circles, and I've seen people go through different things. And the only word I can use is amazing, because that's what it is. Mm-hmm. It is like watching and listening to people work through years and years and years of issues of trauma, and it all come out at the same time. And I think what's the most amazing is when it's happening in unison, in stereo, when so many people are all going through it all at the same time. There's like this unity that exists, and sometimes the room just erupts. Yeah. Erupts, and it's just it is a sound. It is an experience unique to this medicine. It is sometimes startling if you're new to it. It is relieving to some people. It's familiar to others, but it is an experience nonetheless. And you also referred to the medicine as a she. Mm-hmm. And I think it's good to kind of talk about how, this is like a consciousness that you're interacting with.
Oh, definitely. I mean, look, the medicine is another being. I mean, when you drink the medicine, you've got company. You have company inside of your body. You have company inside your mind. You have a roommate for like the next 6 hours, okay? And let me tell you, it's very clear and very, very understandable. And it's amazing. It just like goes through your entire body, like combs and scans through every part of your body, and places where you've had issues, or digestive or joints, or everybody's got something going on with their body. It actually goes in and makes some physical changes. I mean, part of the squirming around that you do, or moving and sitting in different postures, and it's like it actually is moving your body. I mean, it tells you different ways to sit and move, and it just goes and starts working on your where it is that you need the work. I mean, it's a very I don't pretend to understand it. But it works. I mean, I also don't know how I grow my hair or my toenails either. So, it's like, that's certainly not a prerequisite to have things work.
Yeah.
But and that's just in your physical body. Then you get going on with your whole, what's going on in your life and, your mind, and the medicine speaks to you. For most people, it's like a feeling, and then you just kind of get knowing. It just comes to you. But there's also a visual aspect to it that occurs. It's not all the time. A lot of people seem to, think that you drink ayahuasca and suddenly a big 60-inch HD screen comes down in front of you and you're watching Avatar in 3D or something. That can happen, certainly, but it's not the majority of the time. Matter of fact, even down in Peru, where they do whole centers for you go stay for weeks or months or whatnot, they even intentionally dial down the medicine to try to chill out on the visions, because the visions can sometimes even be a distraction, because that's what people are going for, kind of more of the entertainment thing. And it's more about the physical healing and the information that comes to you intuitively. Like, I mean, this medicine talks to you directly. I mean, suddenly you're just like knowing. It just happens. You're just, I can't explain it, but now I know whatever the answer to my question was. Which brings me to a thing that I didn't bring up. A huge part of the ayahuasca experience is about your intention. It's not something where, two people get together accidentally on a Friday night and say, we're going to smoke a joint and see what happens. That's not anything like this. There's a whole preparation. There's a week of dieting beforehand to clean yourself. It's, no salt, no sugar, no sex, no alcohol, no pork, no fried foods, all of the things that make your body work a little extra harder to cleanse itself of them. They're all restricted the week before, so that when you're actually in the medicine, because the medicine, the whole purgative effect is about getting rid of the toxins in your body, okay? So the cleaner you are going into it, the more mellow your journey is going to be. If you go and you've had, triple bacon cheeseburger right beforehand and washed it down with a super big gulp of Cokes, and you had like 6-pack of beer the night before and smoked an ounce of weed and all this other kind of stuff, man, it's going to be a rough night. That's, I'm just saying. But
it's true.
Yeah, and that's physically as well. I mean, the whole diet also includes energy thing. Like I wouldn't be watching horror flicks or a lot of drama, and same thing with relationships. Like just avoiding confrontation, and because all that is just like a frequency of energy. So you want to have your body clean, and you want to have your mind really peaceful and tranquil, because as you go into this medicine, it's going to communicate with you with images and with thoughts and feelings of what you're familiar with. So if what you've been doing is a lot of kind of harsh stuff, it can make the journey harsh. And so preparation and intention is crucial. So the week beforehand, aside from the diet, is about really, really, really focusing on why you are coming to the medicine, and have it. I suggest 3 things that you would like to have answered. I mean, it can be anything from why is the grass green to, what is God, to why am I here as a person, to, family stuff and relationships. And it doesn't matter. Any question that you have as a human being in your life, you can bring to this medicine, and it always gives you an answer. Now, the answers come in different ways. They're not necessarily going to be English spoken to you, or Spanish if you speak Spanish, but they can come to you in metaphors. They can come to you. Sometimes the answer will come to you through the person sitting next to you. It's the wildest thing. Sometimes the answers will come a day or two later, and you'll be like, well, I don't know that I got my question answered in that ceremony, but it was amazing. And then 2 days later, like, oh my God, that exactly my thing with my child and that, and next thing I know, and boom, 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 and now I understand exactly why, and this and this and that. So profound answers to questions that just nobody else can answer. That is one of the magnificent beauties of this medicine.
Yeah. And, you make a good point. It's not, you might not get that information during the ceremony. You might not get that information at the day after, and there's no guarantee you're going to get it the next week, but it will come as long as you're clear with your intention, and I always try to have at least one thing that I'm looking for. In the last intention I set was for clarity amongst a few different things that were going on in my life. And, some of my questions, specific questions, were provided almost instantaneously once I delved rather deeply into the medicine, and some of them have been answered over the past week, whatever it is.
And that's one of the hilarious things about this medicine is talk about the intentions and these deep questions. Like, I know I have had questions that were just like, okay, this is going to be all night long, and this is going to be a big question, and it's going to be a big class, and like, okay, I'm ready. Like, what is my purpose in life? And like, okay, so this is going to be my whole ceremony long, and I'm ready, and I'm buckled up, and I drink a lot of medicine, and I'm ready for it. And then you get an answer in like 10 minutes, and you got it, and you're like, okay, so really, that was it? Like, I've been stressing all week long on, this big, I'm going to sit down and get this answer from, the creator of the universe. I was like, oh no, there's your answer. So that's why I usually suggest having 2 or 3, because sometimes stuff you think is going to be an all-day class, and like, no, there's your answer. Good. And
you can come in with something general too. And that's okay too.
Absolutely.
The more specific you are, sometimes the better. Sometimes it's better to be, a little nebulous and just, have a blanketed, even if you're just asking for clarity. I mean, that could show up in so many different ways.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to conversationally circle it back to the beginning, when I was introducing the podcast and talk about the level of respect that I have for this medicine. It is not to be taken lightly. I've seen people go into circles and not show it the respect that it deserves, and definitely have a tough time with it, and learn a very important lesson that you have to be careful with the challenges you put out there, because the universe is listening, and this consciousness is listening. And if you're going to enter into that realm, you have to be prepared for what they're going to give you in return for what you're putting out there. So if you're thinking about maybe doing an ayahuasca ceremony, my advice to you is be really clear with why you're going to be doing it, and prepare.
Yes, that's great advice.
Prepare, in many different ways, mind, body, and spirit. Get clear, definitely clear your diet. Like, if you can eliminate that aspect and you can just clean yourself out for a week, 2 weeks, whatever, that's going to make it a lot easier. A lot easier. Now, energetically, and all the other stuff you have going on in life, yes, there might be some purging, it might be difficult. But, watch what you eat before and after ceremony.
And what you think.
And what you think, and what you speak, and how you act, all these things. And that has everything to do with being present.
Well, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's like it shows us, and that's why some people have a tough time of it, because, like, I know before I kind of got my wax on the head to kind of wake up, I was like thinking I should be doing this in life, or I should be doing that, or this is, all these different thoughts about whatever was going on in my life. But then I wasn't getting the results and the feelings, and the family and the people around me weren't this beautiful, loving tribe that I had always dreamed of. And I was like, well, gee, what's wrong with all these people? And then the medicine was like, well, you are the common denominator amongst all these people. And it was like, whoa. And it started showing me some things that, like I'm like acting certain ways. And, what is it they say? When you pee in the punch bowl, it's going to taste kind of funny. And I was all like, well, this stuff, it keeps tasting funny everywhere I go. And they're like, dude, check this out. So the medicine is super, super, super kind, and beautiful. It's not like I had any traumatic experiences, but it will, when you come to it saying, I want to live like my original intention almost 6 years ago was that I just want to rebuild my life based on simplicity and love. That's it. Because it was way too complex. I'm a network engineer guy by trade, and just everything had to be complicated, and acronyms and all these other crazy things. And my personal relationships were just not this blooming flower garden that I had always dreamt that they would be. And I started working with the medicine, and it was like, well, if you want to come from your heart, you need to get out of your head. And the headspace is a real comfortable place for a lot of us. It's like you get smart and you get your whatever you're doing, your certifications or degrees, or you start getting paid for using that brain, and it's like, wow, that must be what life's all about. But
it's not.
It's not. It's all about the heart. Like, oh, that's what all that flower power and silliness was about, coming from the mind space. But man, once you start really coming from the heart, that's the bomb dealio, man. I mean, that is why we are here. My whole thing is about shining the light of 1,000 suns. I mean, that is our purpose, to just glow and just brilliantly beam out just the life force and the creation and love, and only you can do it the way that you do it. There is no one curriculum or path or whatever. It's just to shine brightly, whether you're dancing or singing or acupuncture or engineering or whatever you're doing. There's a drastic difference, and everybody knows it. There's a drastic difference between somebody doing something because they have to and somebody doing it because they're divinely inspired by love. I mean, food tastes different and art looks different and everything. Everybody wants to be doing something with somebody who's divinely inspired. And so that is our purpose here on the planet, is to be divinely inspired in only the way that you can do it in your life.
Well, a great intention would be to find out what your purpose is. Just that alone, the medicine will teach you a lot. Because a lot of us are just not fulfilling our life purpose. We're doing things for monetary reward. And if that's what you're doing and just going through the motions, and you decide to sit in an ayahuasca ceremony, you are going to be shown things that might make you uncomfortable, but it's going to be your truth, because it's going to be a reflection point. You're going to start seeing why things are the way they are. And you're going to start to notice that maybe you're not as fulfilled as you thought you were. And for what it's worth, that 6 or 8 hours or however long you are with the medicine, that could be the most important 6 or 8 hours of your life.
Well, the old joke is one night of ayahuasca ceremony is like 20 years of therapy. So, I mean, it sounds wacky, but it's absolutely true.
I will fully attest to that fact. I will definitely agree. It is a powerful experience.
Yeah.
Clay, I want to thank you for joining us today. I think this is a very important topic, and I really appreciate the information that you provided. It's important. This is an important medicine. Ayahuasca is an important medicine, and it's becoming more prevalent, which is a beautiful thing. We just have to make sure that we maintain the respect for it and the intention, and we look at it as for what it is, which is a teacher more than anything. And, as a teacher, teachers can be stern at times. They can be kind at times. Ayahuasca is also known as grandmother.
Yep.
And grandmother can have a soft hand or a firm hand.
But it's always out of love.
It's always
Always
out of love. That's a great point. And I was just about to get there. It's always for our greatest and highest good.
Yep.
And that is why we do what we do. So, Clay, this would be a good opportunity for you to kind of talk about maybe how people can get in touch with you if they want to learn a little bit more about the medicine.
Sure. I'm on Facebook, Clay Villanueva. So feel free to contact me, message me. There are some other ayahuasca groups on Facebook as well. There's one in Arizona, pretty easy to find. So yeah, just feel free if you have any questions, or if there's anything at all I can do to support you or point you to any other circles in any other parts of the country, I would be happy to do that.
Great. Clay, thank you again for joining us. I want to thank everyone who listened to this podcast. I want to welcome everyone back to the present moment.
Thank you for listening to the Are You Being Present podcast, brought to you by the Presence Projects. Remember, you have a choice. Choose to be present.